4, 3, 2, 1. You're on.
You know, in the not too distant future.
This Sunday.
Somewhere in time and space,
Yeah.
or next Sunday AD. It depends on like how far in the distant future.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Saturday live stream here at RetroBlasting. You might notice that our seating arrangement has changed a little bit. That is because our resident expert on Mystery Science Theater is Melinda, and we felt like she should get the host position that would normally be the case on Mystery Science Theater for the Invention Exchange. So you have your lovely jumpsuit here, and the bots are in the appropriate places. But we thought we would talk about Mystery Science Theater today. Aaron, I think your microphone arm is kind of in your face.
That's how he likes it. Scott says, Rousdower.
She is the captain now, Frozen Pumpkin. Yes,
Rousdower.
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Captain
Rousdower.
Rousdower.
Can you put out my head?
And I know that we always talk about our first experiences with different things when we do the theme of the live stream, but I was curious how you both encountered MST3K.
Well, for me, I somehow managed to not see it until once again, like a boyfriend that I had was like, you would love this show. And I'm like, it looks really lame. And so he had the movie. I think he had bought it like on VHS or something. And so he showed me the movie. So the Mystery Science Theater movie with Mike was the very first Misty thing that I watched. And there was like a moment, like I was really enjoying it and I was really getting into it. I was like, oh, I get what this is now. And there was like a line that just like won my heart, and that's the part where Cal and the lady, I can't remember her name right now, but they get into the tubes like to sort of pressurize themselves to like land on this planet, right? And they're on this spaceship, and they say, the guy in the movie says, and your hands will be magnetized to the rods, and then I think it's Servo says, yeah, and if your hands were made out of metal, that would mean something. And I just started crying, laughing. Like it was so funny to me and unexpected that it just sort of like won my heart. And so from then I realized there are all these little joke nuggets inside. So you can watch the same episodes like 15 times and still discover new little aside comments that they'll throw out there that you didn't get before. But like if you watch it 10 years later, you're like, I get that now. Like that was a reference to something I didn't even know about back then. And so they really stay fresh, and they age very well in my opinion. So
that reminds me of how I encountered records growing up. Like I always liked 2 or 3 songs on the record and listened to them until I hated them, and then would go back and listen, and then some other song in between them would suddenly become my new favorite song. It's like I watched some of these episodes. Now, granted, I've only seen some of them, twice or whatever. It wasn't as much of an obsession for me with Mystery Science Theater, but like I wonder, why did I think that line was funny? But then the next thing they say that totally whiffed when I was younger would be the most hilarious thing I heard that day.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, how did you encounter it, Michael?
Well, we had just moved back from the UK, and my parents, made sure that this was the summer of '93, and my parents made sure that the cable was ready because it was going to be a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old stuck in a house most of the summer with nothing to do. So I would sit there and just watch, cable TV, because I made the mistake of owning or buying The Rocketeer on Super Nintendo, which was a terrible video game. And so I quickly was just watching TV a lot. And every time I would go past the Comedy Central channel, it was always the same thing. It was this silhouette of this guy and 2 robots watching some weird movie. And I was like, this is on all the time. And I just kept like flipping right by it. And then one day, I guess I had burnt myself out on History Channel, TCM, everything on TBS.
You like literally watched everything else there was.
I had reached the end of cable TV.
Michael had completed cable.
Yeah, I'd probably even just burned through QVC at that point.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
You were like, I've seen every episode of Wings ever made.
Yeah. And so
Several times.
I'll never forget. I flipped over to the channel, and I've seen a lot of people in the chat right now talking about how it's not my thing, but I want to, and I want to tell you guys, it wasn't my thing either. So I thought.
Well, it sounds like even with Melinda, her first glance at it was, this isn't my thing.
Right.
Well, I didn't even know what it was. I just knew that it was like something. I honestly, in my head, I thought it was something that was akin to Monty Python. And the person that I was dating was really into Monty Python, which is sort of okay, but not 100% my thing.
That old dating dynamic.
And so
Why do you think the Pythons are so funny?
I mean, it's just like I liked some Monty Python, like the TV show, but not so much the movies. Like the movies kind of go a little, I don't know.
The Holy Grail I really enjoyed, but it was Flying Circus.
But so I just assumed that it was like really dorky dad humor or something, which I guess some of it is, but like I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was, but it...
Yeah, as Jason's saying very, very well, he's saying it's a slow burn for a lot of people. You don't get it or like it, and then suddenly you do. And that's what happened to me. I'm laying there one afternoon. It was the summer of '93, and there was no mic yet. It was just Joel and the bots, and I didn't even know that yet. I was like, I turn it over to the comedy channel as I'm flipping channels, and there's that show again with them on Silhouette. And I'm like... And it was... What stopped me was the fact that it was a 60s color Japanese science fiction monster movie. So I'm going, wait, this is like retro sci-fi, like Godzilla type stuff. And I'm like, and this really bad lunar surface is being shown, like this set. And this rocket comes out of the ground like a space rocket. But it looks just like a number 2 pencil, except painted gray with the lead painted red. And I go, that's a pencil. And right as I said that, one of the characters said, hey, yeah, we're taking off in our number 2 pencil. And I was like, that's what this show is about. It's making fun of all these movies that they're watching. And at that point, I just started watching it all the time.
Well, so I was thinking about this as we were getting ready to do this live stream. And I was thinking about how this Mystery Science Theater really is what made my brain start working in the way that your brain already worked, which is watching movies not just passively like I don't know. I think a lot of people, myself included in the olden days, would watch movies the same way you would when you're a little kid and it was story time and your teacher's telling you a story and you're just like going with it. You're just totally suspension of disbelief and you're just like, okay, I accept this. This is the premise. Okay. Whereas like there's a point where you start going, you pull yourself out, you break that fourth wall and you're kind of like, well, what's going on over there? Like they're clearly not holding the boom mic correctly because I can't hear that guy. And, whatever is happening, you start being aware that it's a movie. And really good movies can still immerse you, but like these are not really good movies. And so it's like film criticism and humor and comedy timing and all of these things that were really interesting to me. And it made my brain start processing all things that I watched, even good things, in a different way, which was very helpful when I met you because being able to watch a movie with Michael requires that level of over-analysis, hyper-analysis in the moment of watching whatever it is.
I'll never forget that day that you found out The Core wasn't a good movie.
Me neither, Aaron.
It was a dark day.
So Vinkman says, my introduction to Misty was also the movie when it was released on VHS. So, yeah, I'm sure that's true of a lot of people. And then Vinkman says, by the way, I'm probably going to be dropping random Misty quotes throughout the live stream, and I just want to see if you know what episode it's from. So I'll do my best, man. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that because I came in, after Mike was already in place, and then I really started watching it more regularly probably about 1995. And so that would have been, around the time that they were on Sci-Fi Channel and it was Mike. And so all of those episodes I literally watched and recorded them onto VHS while I'm, while it was on TV. And so I know those episodes the best. I'm not as familiar with some of the Joel stuff, although I've seen a ton of Joel episodes, but I haven't watched them 30 times like I have with, The Final Sacrifice, for example.
Right.
Vinkman says, haven't you screwed up enough already? Well, he did write the script. I don't know that one. See, now I'm going to feel stupid.
No. If you don't know one, then Vinkman's, your job is going to be to...
Take a drink.
Oh, my God. He's going to be delirious by the end of this.
Well, that'll shut him up.
Oh, my God. No, I mean, also, not necessarily to Super Chat, but put in what the name of the episode was.
I don't really want you to shut up, man. I'm just kidding. Rob K says, favorite host,
Hey,
Joel or Mike? I really, truly do like both hosts. Here's my analogy. There's Joel people and Mike people in the same way there are cat people and dog people. And cat people like dogs too. Like they like cats and dogs, whereas dog people, some of them like cats, but some of them hate cats. And they're just like, dog people are the best people and dogs are better. So I feel like Joel is like the dog people and Mike people tend to like both. But maybe that's just me being biased. But I really genuinely like both. Like I enjoy them for different reasons because their personalities are so different.
I started with Joel organically as it was being shown. I mean, I saw Mitchell on its first airing, and that was the end of Joel. But when I first saw Mike, I wasn't really able to watch it because I was home from college and it was on Sci-Fi and I just skipped right past it. But I knew he was a new guy. And at first, Mike took a little bit of getting used to, but it was quickly apparent that he was just as funny as Joel. Like there's really, I'll watch a Joel one just as much as I'll watch a Mike one. I don't care. I'll watch them both with equal enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's ways the shows grew between the two hosts too. So you had Joel who really liked some of the more prop-driven humor, the invention exchanges and things like that. And
right.
Mike had a different way, like almost a Charlie Chaplin kind of way of interacting with the props on the set. We were, you sent out an example of one for everybody to look at before this, and there's a lovely little scene where Mike is trying to have a little cup of tea, and he's just doing this whole bit where he's starting a record player, and he's getting the sugar out to put in the cup and
stirring it,
and then he's gonna have a nice little sip, and then he's I'm gonna wait, and then now here we go, and then all of a sudden it's like everything shakes.
Yeah.
So where you
like Joel better though, right? Don't you? Or
I feel like I saw Joel early on. I found it, not that you guys asked, but I encountered the show much like Michael, just flipping through channels and. Like Beavis and Butthead later on, I just it was one of those things that I would stick with for a few minutes and come back. So I always enjoyed the sense of humor on the show, but I don't think I ever really sat down and started watching them start to finish until much later on in my life. But I think it was Joel that first got me into it, and I think I just related a little bit more to Joel's sort of, weird sense of humor. But I agree. I think Mike is also funny. I don't really I'm not going to have a fight between the two of them.
I think for me,
celebrity deathmatch style.
Some of it is the movies, because once they moved over to Sci-Fi Channel, and we talked about this earlier today, they had different types of movies. So a lot of the movies that Joel tends to do are not movies that I find particularly interesting in that bad way, as much as sometimes they're doing more strictly sci-fi and horror and weirder, they're just different types of movies. So you've got things like Soul Taker or Devil Doll or Devil Fish or the Final Sacrifice, which those don't seem like movies that Joel would have ever picked to do. And I think some of it for me is those are the kinds of movies, there are literally, I think there are 3 movies that are from Mike's period that I had actually rented and seen prior to them being Misty movies, Squirm, Werewolf, and it seems like there's another one that I can't.
You rattled it off earlier, but I don't remember.
But those two for sure.
Legend of Boggy Creek, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I think it was a Legend of Boggy Creek. You're right.
Yeah.
So, and I had only seen part of that somewhere, but the point is that. I think that the movies themselves, it's not so much the guys. I think it was just the movies for me. So Scott says, no slow burn for me. I was flipping channels on Comedy Central one Saturday and landed on Catalina Caper just as they were riffing on Little Richard's musical number, instantly hooked. Well, sometimes you do come in at just the right moment and it's like, oh yeah. Vinkman says, I will triumph over my head injury.
These must be from the Joel era.
This must be they're definitely not late.
I'll tell you, we were watching on Pluto TV the other night. We were watching just
So
a lot
obsessed.
of them. And I was keeping one ear to the TV while I was doing Marvel Strike Force or something, and I'm sitting there, and the character on screen, he says, he says, he grabs this guy by the collar and he says, "Yeah, I've heard of you. I hear you're the man who knows everything." And then one of the guys just riffs, "Who is God?" And I just started laughing my butt off because it just hits you. You know, the riffs, if they hit you the right way, you know. And I just dropped my phone. I just started laughing. I couldn't take it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there are things that, like, we were watching Space Mutiny earlier, and so that's
the one with the teacup bit in it, by the way.
That is literally the one where every time I used to do Mystery Science Theater marathons at my house. So my select friends that loved Mystery Science Theater, they would all come over, and it would be literally 12 hours straight of Misty movies. I would have, like, themed food. I would have, like, Misty Bingo, where instead of BINGO, it would say MST3K along the top, and I'd have, like, all these different things where you could, like, win prizes if you got, like, MST3K. And so, like, I always played Space Mutiny at that because, I mean, it is just, to me, every single riff is gold. And I remember, like, it was probably the 10th time I watched that I started noticing them making fun of the bad soundtrack. So they would just start humming off key, like, discordantly, because the soundtrack is like a weird keyboard sound. And I had just really never noticed that before. And so I just started laughing at that. And so now every time I watch it, I still am looking for things hidden in there that I...
Well, I want to answer King Eric the Great's question. He asks if Riff Tracks is made by the same guys. Riff Tracks is made by Mike Nelson and Kevin Murphy and Bill Corbett, who were Mike and the Bots on their era of the show. So yes, Riff Tracks is done by Misty alums, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, and then Cineprov is sort of Joel and his cadre of fans, which... you know, leads...
No, Cinematic Titanic.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Titanic.
Yeah, sorry. Cineprov is our local one. Sorry. Cinematic Titanic. They're both C's.
And we were just talking about
We were
that
just
before we
talking
came
about it.
downstairs.
So, yeah, Cinematic Titanic, which I've seen several times live, is like Mary Jo Pehl and... is it Jay Elvis and like the Dr. Forrester and all of these different TV's Frank, all those people were there.
That brings me to a big question, because we've spent a lot of time talking about who our favorite host was and things like that. How did you feel about all of the off the satellite of love stuff that happened between the mad overlords who were torturing them, like Pearl and her dad and everybody else involved? Because I think for me it was a little off-putting at first, and it's sort of like part of the wonder of the show now. But it was, you know, like when that sort of changed abruptly, it sort of threw me off a little bit when I was a kid. Not that that's important, but I just...
I mean, for me, again, I came in when it was like Pearl and Bobo and Brain Guy. And,
I like Brain Guy.
And I really enjoyed I really like Kevin Murphy and Bill Corbett. And so having them in those roles and, you know, I don't know, I just...
Is it weird having the family split between two different podcasts? Or like
Not to me. I mean, again, that's what I was going to say, is a lot of people sort of use the fact that there's Cinematic Titanic and Riff Tracks, and that never the two shall cross. Like, these guys are over here and these people are all over here, like as though Joel and Mike themselves dislike each other. And that may be true, but as far as I've ever seen, I've never directly seen them talk about having a direct problem with each other. I know Mike was a writer on the show and, you know, contributed a lot to the Joel era. He's very musical. He wrote a ton of music and sings and does all those different things. And that was incorporated a lot when he was working on the show before Joel left. And Joel left not because of Mike, but Joel just left because he wanted to leave for whatever his reasons were.
Yeah, I think he just had personal reasons why he was not tired of, but done making the show. And I think he's even expressed regret later, saying he kind of wished he'd stuck it out. But then we wouldn't have Mike, and I think it was a great opportunity for those folks, too.
I think that if I had come across this show and it was still Joel, I still would have loved it. Like, it's not... I love the concept of the show. So I feel like people get really into which one do you like better, and I don't really see a lot of value in it. It's like, which bot do you like better? I know everyone may have I love them both for different reasons. Like, I love, you know, particularly Kevin Murphy's Servo because of the musical stuff, and like his temperament is just really funny to me.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to read some of these super chats and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. God, I hate it when it does that. Scott says, who else their family insane every Thanksgiving in the 90s?
Who else drove their family?
Drove their family insane every Thanksgiving in the 90s by insisting that Turkey Day be on in the background. Also, your favorite short. I couldn't do that because we were always at my grandmother's house and there was no cable, so there was no booze and there was no cable. It was a very long freaking day.
Man, it must have been tough for you when you were 9.
It was.
I should have done that in Tom's voice.
If I were 9 in the 90s, but I wasn't.
Right, I know.
But-
I made the joke work.
So Turkey
With
Turkey
time
Day
travel.
Turkey Day was like in the early, like sometime in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Like 92,
To 95.
95, somewhere in there.
And then eventually they just started showing pre-recorded stuff, not really new content. So I think
Yeah.
that was a Sci-Fi Channel thing where they started, or was that Comedy Central? But
The Turkey Day was Comedy Central.
Yeah.
My favorite short.
does it
It's
just mean
prob-
interstitial bit between the?
No,
where they do like little
They do
short
shorts.
reels.
So
like,
there's-
Okay.
there's several. So like the one with, I can't remember what it's called, weirdly, but it's Coily the Spring Sprite and No Springs. Like that is really awesome. And the one where it's like what to do on a date is pretty great. Where he's like, taking her to a salvage sale or a rummage sale or something like that, and you're just like,
Didn't they do that really dark one where it was the kid getting his driver's license in the 50s and then wrecking the car, like his brothers and sisters get hit by a train or something? And it was all this educational thing about how to drive safe. Wasn't that one that they did?
maybe.
I think it was.
Wow.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite is probably Coily the Spring Sprite, or possibly the Gumby short that they did, where the bots are both really traumatized because they have it's called Robot Days or Robot Craze or something like that is the name of this short, and there are these little robots that Gumby is dealing with, and they kill they take the robot apart at the end, and they're like, oh my god, they decapitated him. So it's
Don't
pretty
remind
great.
me about that. I was traumatized for weeks.
Vinkman says Merlin sends in his trained flatulence to scout the room. Oh, he says, by the way, I was tempted to replace Merlin with Aaron the Aaronist, Aaron whoever Aaron.
The trained flatulence is a secret I don't tell many people about.
I assume that's
Quest
of the Delta Knights,
yeah,
right?
I would assume that's Quest of the Delta Knights, but
Yeah.
it could be another one.
I think there's another one that has Merlin in it, though. But
Merlin's bear.
I don't particularly remember that riff, but I've seen Quest of the Delta Knights quite a number of times. And I'm sorry, my screen is jumping everywhere. Vinkman, won't he be surprised when he finds out it doesn't go pow, but fawish? I don't... These are all ones I don't know, man. You should just be here to tell us what they are.
Oh, that'd be fun to have Vinkman here doing the Misty panel with
Yeah.
you. Or the Misty live stream.
It's like a
Jason says my favorite short is always Mr. B Natural. Yeah, Mr. B Natural, which is just so weird.
Which one is that?
It's the one where there's like this. It's a woman. It's got a Peter Pan vibe. It's a woman dressed up in a. Tim's got to go upstairs real quick,
Oh.
so he'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Everybody say bye to Tim.
Mr. B Natural is like kind of like this woman with really short pixie haircut and a kind of a Peter Pan outfit with musical notes pasted all over it.
That
and
already
she's like,
sounds like gold.
it's gold, Jerry. It's gold. Eric O'Sullivan says, I love your show. Thank you so much. What's the best quality movie do you think is lampooned? My vote is for Parts, the Clonus horror. I think it's actually a decent movie. Also, I loved Felicia Day and the newer stuff. That's a good question.
The highest quality movie that's been lampooned.
I feel like, oh
Would it have
man,
come later when they had like bigger budgets for getting licensing?
You could argue.
okay. Well, I want to know what Michael thinks is the best movie, because this is probably better than asking me. Because I'm going to pick one that I just enjoyed, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're asking.
No,
First of all, I
it's
think
hard for me
I'm
to.
eliminating from my choice. I'm eliminating all of the Godzilla and kaiju movies because they have a dedicated fan following and they're a genre unto themselves.
And it's not a genre based on necessarily high quality.
Exactly, right.
But they can still be considered good genre movies, but not be high quality.
I will tell you that the one movie that I've seen from the Mystery Science Theater era that felt like it had production value and a real budget and a real crew behind it, despite the result, was Soul Taker.
That's the one I was going to say is I feel like, so for me, it would be between Soul Taker, which did win an award, not at a Razzie, but like a real award at some science fiction convention.
Turkey Award or whatever.
No.
It was a
Was
best
it a Saturn Award?
I think it was something like that.
And
it was
sci-fi.
I mean, it's a low budget movie,
Right.
but I think there were some cool ideas. They, again, not executed well, but cool ideas. Or Danger Diabolic, which I think was a very kind of a cool movie and interesting based on a comic book.
Yes, that's another good one to point out.
Yeah, so I think, again, those are all from the later era of Mike, which I'm more familiar with. There may have been some Joel ones that were also very good. Certainly not like any of the ones with our friend Joe Don Baker, but you know, I think
those also felt like real movies though. Like they were not like the Joe Don Baker films might have had bad scripts, but they weren't Space Mutiny in execution. Like,
well, right, like Mitchell isn't like like Mitchell is better than Final Justice.
Well, yeah, because Final Justice is a ridiculous premise.
Right, but I mean, it's still cringy to watch. It's super cringy. Like all of the scenes of him with like Linda Evans. Ugh, just ugh. I mean, it's really akin to the V8 scene in Ninja 3: The Domination. Like it's really.
Which again, I think Ninja 3.
Wow, that's not a good comparison.
No.
I think Ninja 3: The Domination would have been a perfect Misty movie. I would have loved to have seen that, you know, on Mystery Science Theater, but they never did it.
She should have used motor oil.
Diabolic was the final Mike episode. Yeah, and honestly, I remember I had finished college and I had moved and I was living by myself in this little apartment in Birmingham, Alabama when that episode aired, and I was so bummed out because every Sunday morning you'd wake up during those sci-fi years and it would come on at like 8 o'clock from like 8 to 10. And I would literally have to set my alarm to get up that early to watch them. And I'd at least press record and like fall asleep on the couch watching it, and it would go off at 10 a.m. for me. And so like knowing that wasn't going to be there as it really got me through like some kind of lonely, dark years. Like having them, it felt like you're kind of hanging out with your friends, kind of like podcasts.
Because I was thinking about why this even still resonates, and it's especially during the COVID times.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having your buddies over, and since you've watched so many of these episodes, you sort of know them, like you think you know them really, really well. And their jokes and everything. It's almost like you're just like, haha, good one, Mike. All right.
Well, yeah, and you can have it on in the
you're
background
fired.
and not really actively watch it or pay attention to it, but it feels like you're not alone. You feel like it's like when your friends are over and you get up to go to the kitchen to get something to eat, and they're all just talking amongst themselves, and there's just something comforting about
Like
that
there's a
sense of
friend in the other
community.
room.
Yeah, and Mike and the bots were always my friend in the other room when I didn't have a friend in the other room, and
Sounds like a great horror novel. Your friend in the other room.
But yeah, I mean, and again, like they're very rewatchable. So I would record them on VHS, and this was during the times when I couldn't afford cable. So I would just rewatch those things because I didn't have anything else to watch.
Did you and your friends share tapes?
No, because I didn't. This was during like a time where I had moved to a new city. I didn't have any friends.
You didn't have any friends, even
not
at
locally.
distance. Yeah.
I mean, not.
That was a huge part of the culture, especially early on in the Joel era. Was like they even had a bit at the end of the credits that said, you know, keep distributing the tapes.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, which they had to take off, obviously, for copyright reasons. But man, what a time that this came about in. Like, I was wondering, how would you start doing something like this today? Like, say you wanted to sit down and riff on some movie that you thought was terrible. Almost like Red Letter Media kind of does, where they get together and talk about it, but actually just have it playing and show part of it. How would you even go about getting the rights and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff to make this happen?
I don't know. I mean, I know that there was like a whole thing here locally, Cineprov, which I'm sure isn't doing anything now because of COVID, and I don't know, but they would show a movie and they would riff on top of it. So they would have like people. And it was always kind of a crappy movie, usually.
But I bet it's different at a venue versus.
I don't know like
streaming
how
it
they
or-
dealt with getting rights, or if they just sort of were bypassing that, because I know a lot of people will do that.
I think they were at first, because you can't get some of the stuff from the first years easily, like the stuff that was just
Oh, the
locally
cable
read,
access
the cable
stuff.
access
Yeah.
stuff.
No, but this was like they would get movies like The Wrath of Khan and
Yeah.
show the movie, and then the guy who ran Cineprov and like a couple other like local improv comedians would sit in the back and riff on the movie live. So
There's
you would
probably
go
like an ASCAP for movies to some degree. There's probably some place you go report and then pay a check. for
maybe.
number
I'm
of
just
people.
saying like whatever
Yeah.
that is.
To answer the question here, Mystery Science Theater never did Xanadu. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen them riff Xanadu, but they didn't.
Yes, but I declared Space Mutiny Xanadu in space.
True.
Even made a poster.
To
for
the
it.
second part of Erica Sullivan's question about, or he didn't actually ask a question, he just says, I loved Felicia Day and the newer stuff. I think Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt were both very well cast. I just feel like, you know, to me, there are two flaws with the new stuff. And I know I'm old, but to me, the off, like, not while they're riffing movies, but the little skit stuff is very polished. I know it's not as polished as probably the networks wanted it to be. And I think you were talking about how Joel fought them to keep it from being too polished, but it still feels very Hollywoodized and kind of overproduced with like the little musical numbers and kind of stuff like that. The main problem with it is that during the riffing, a huge part of like what I said earlier, what works about MST3K is they are really good at timing, because there's comedic timing, but when you're riffing, there's an extra level of it, because you have to find a space where you
Right.
can talk, where the characters in the movie aren't talking, because otherwise I can't, as the viewer, process what's happening.
Right.
You also have to let your jokes breathe. You have to let whatever this person in the movie says land on me, and then give it enough space, but not too long, and then jump in there with your joke at just the right moment. And that's very hard to do, and that's what I think they're all mastered. All of these guys, whether it's Joel, Mike, Kevin, Trace, whoever, they're all really good at that, and it's not easy to do. And you actually did Cineprov a couple of times where you riffed those movies
Yep.
live, like I was talking about. And so what did that give you a level of understanding of that comedic timing? Because the new MST3K is just joke to the point where you can't even process this
feels-
joke, and then it's another joke, and you can't even hear the movie.
It feels like they've got 3,000 writers, and
Yeah.
all of them
Which they
dump their
do.
jokes into a funnel, and then they just sort of all fall into the movie where they'll fit any old place, almost like there's just a computer algorithm that's just stuffing them in. And I was reading somewhere that they do a lot more pre-recording for that. So I think there's a lot less of you're watching the movie like Michael would have been at
Right.
Cinema Improv, and reacting in the moment, which you do very well even when we're just hanging out and watching TV shows.
Well, the challenge that I had is that it wasn't as organized as a Mystery Science Theater production, obviously, because it was a live thing. Remember, I would watch the movie and take notes and try and plan my riffs.
Somewhat, yeah.
And I found out that that's what these guys did, the Mystery Science Theater people.
Yeah, they would usually watch them about 3 times.
Right, but because the other people at Cineprov didn't work that way at the time,
You had to fight for your...
well, you just didn't know if they were about to step on something you were about to riff on.
Right.
And then you'd have to find your place and not talk over them, and then just skip your riff and move on to the next thing. So
And it's
frustrating.
dark, so it's not like you can have your notes in front of you.
I did, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of just have to remember, like, here I was going to make that joke about this thing. And
Right.
it's helpful when you already know the movie really well.
And sometimes there was no way to know a movie really well. Like, what was the one it was
I can't even remember
Moby
what the ones...
Dick 2020 or something like that. It was like Moby Dick 2000 or something like that. It was
Oh, it was
really
in that
bad.
club of everything
I don't even
2000.
remember that.
Yeah, Brian Bostwick was in it, and it was just very strange.
I
And,
found myself on the set of Dracula 2000 when I was in New Orleans.
Right.
Wow.
I looked around and I was like, what's happening? They're like, you're about to be an extra in a movie. And I'm like, I'm going to go this way.
right, yeah.
Jeff David Lowe says there's the somewhat famous story where they went too far in riffing the Academy Award-winning movie Dennis Miller Got Mad at Them, ? But I think you can riff anything. What do you think? I don't know which movie you're talking about.
Probably a Dennis Miller movie.
Dennis Miller? Who cares?
He's a comedian.
No, I know who he is, but
comedians.
I think that you
can riff
I think
anything.
you can riff anything, but what I will say is I find that riffing comedies is very hard. Because they're trying to be funny. So the things, it's sort of like, again, I'm going to bring up Red Letter Media so you guys can all drink. They talk about like things on Best of the Worst. So there are movies that are like trying to be bad or trying to be kitschy, like those Sharknado movies. And you've got movies that are just
What's the one on the episode that was about the Vast of Night? The one with the water park where it had the blades.
Oh, right.
That was
and
an
you
example.
kind of feel like, they're trying to be
They want to
bad,
be that movie
cheesy
you
bad.
rent and get a bunch of beers.
But if you're trying, then it automatically is not funny. It's only funny when you're genuinely trying to
earnest.
make a movie. Like Tommy Wiseau can sit here now and say all day long that The Room was intended to be bad or intended to be funny. But there's no way. Like, and you can feel it when you're watching it. That was a legit attempt at making a film. And it's not that you're trying even to be mean-spirited and laughing at someone's failure, but it's just so far off the mark that it just is kind of like, wow. But it's, it's kind of cool in a way. Like, that's why I think cult movies are partially why they are. So my point is,
can you guys imagine if someone riffed on like the Rise of Skywalker in this climate, like what would happen on all the different Twitter feeds if someone riffed on that?
I don't know if that movie is it's
riffable?
riffable, but it's
like
just,
the jokes in the new.
it's not
MST.
likely to be as funny to me because I think that like it's not completely incompetent as a film.
No.
I mean,
Well, that's the challenge of something like, we talk about riff tracks. People have been asking about riff tracks.
Yeah.
Riff tracks is the opportunity to watch any movie that you can think of with a riff track over it because they're selling you the track so they don't have to worry about licensing, but it's for a specific film. So you can go through a lot of modern-ish films, and for every amazing riff track like Roadhouse, there are some others where I freely admit the riff track itself might be fine, but because the movie is so modern, I can't plug in completely.
Well, and if you know the movie really well, sometimes it just makes it harder. I don't know.
It's kind of better if it's like a 60s B movie that you've probably never even heard of.
I feel like that's true for me anyway. Like, it's Michael and I were talking the other night, like, why is it different when Mystery Science Theater and you see like the bots and either Joel or Mike in the bottom of the screen? There's something about that that's missing when you watch like a riff tracks. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's really just the nostalgia of seeing that on the screen or if there's something about their interactions that's slightly different because Bill and Kevin
copyrighted?
I don't know, but Bill and Kevin's personalities are slightly different when they are acting like themselves versus acting like the robots. So I think that's part of it.
Right.
But I don't know. Wicked Person says, MST3K for me was a thing my roommates always made me watch in our 20s. And years later, roommateless, I missed it and started watching it by myself.
Yeah, that's how I found it, was watching it by myself. I mean, I never needed a group of people to watch Mystery Science Theater with.
I did have some friends in college that loved watching Misty with me. And so, again, once I moved away from my college town and moved to Birmingham, I was kind of alone a lot more of the time. And so watching Misty made me feel like I was with my friends and then like my old friends back in college. So to your point, yes, I felt the same way. Vinkman says, Jack's not getting paid enough to run. That's from Angel's Revenge. I've seen that one like 3 times, but I just...
Sounds like a good riff.
It does.
Jack's not getting paid enough to run.
Vinkman says, you can put your entire head in his belly button. Oof. Laser blast.
You've seen that one.
I have, but it's not one that
It's amazing to me because you can literally predict the riffs on like at least 10 of these.
Maybe it's a context thing.
Well, no, I think he's picking ones that I've seen, but they're not the ones that I, quote constantly.
Because I'm pretty sure that with Space Mutiny, we could have muted the television, and you could have carried on. That
Yeah.
movie.
And the final
and riffs.
sacrifice, and Devilfish,
And Soul Taker.
And Soul Taker.
And Warwolf.
Warwolf. Warwolf.
Paul. Is you a werewolf?
That's a line from the movie. That's not even a
See what I mean?
riff.
The movie and the riffs.
Puma Man. You could do all of
The Puma Man. Love, there's only you in my life. Puma Man, he flies like a moron. Anyway, yeah, there are the ones that I've seen 4 billion times, and I just, they're the ones I know, but Dolphin Warship decloaking off the Star of... Yes, exactly, Jason, yes, that's one I know. That's the one where they're like, dolphins are really stupid. They do this whole skit, and then the Dolphin Warship shows up and starts threatening them, and they're like, dolphins are really smart, aren't they? Torgo. Oh,
we
man.
were watching years ago. We were going through all of the Mystery Science Theater ones. I was trying to acclimate her to the Joel era more, and she had already seen a few of them, and I think one of the ones that we had both mutually seen prior was Manos, Hands of Fate. But I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I'd only seen part of it. I'd never
remember
seen the whole
this day.
thing. And so we're watching this thing, and it's so bad that I always mistake it as Joel's last, even though Mitchell was his last, because I just can't imagine anybody wanting to carry on after that film. But I'll never forget watching that film with them in the lower corner of the screen. And that's a movie where a man who did not know how to make a movie, like less than Ed Wood level of skill, was passionate about making a movie. And there's nothing happening as these characters just stare at one another in this room silently on a wide shot for like 4 minutes. And nothing's going on. And you're just sitting there listening literally to the camera going...
So you can hear the tape, or you can hear the film.
And then finally Joel just loses all composure. And he just says, do something! And I was so with... that
he jumped up. He was like, "Yes!"
Yeah.
I was just like,
exactly.
Okay.
Like when Tom Servo loses it, when the kid and the guy are talking. I don't remember which movie, but they were having a conversation in the car, and they just keep repeating what the other one's saying back and forth to each other. And Tom's just like, ah! And they're like, hey.
Which one is the one we were just watching where Crow gets up and leaves? Because Crow is my favorite character on the show, by the way. I don't know why.
One.
Yeah. But which one was the one we just watched where Crow was like, I'm not sitting through this anymore, and he got up and right at the credits.
You always ask me this, and I never know the answer.
It's always the exact same question.
And
it's very bizarre.
I was like, you need to remember this, Michael, and then you're like, Melinda, which one is it? I don't know.
All right, never mind.
It's hard for me to remember. Like, I remember the riffs, but it's almost like because I hear it playing in my head like a song. That's why I remember the riffs. Whereas
that explains it.
I don't remember like the interstitials, like which ones they go with, except specific ones like the Dolphin Warship, and that's because it's literally tied to what's in the movie of Devilfish, with the pact between electrician, like with the electricians and the dolphins, and people who don't know what I'm talking about must think I'm absolutely crazy, but just trust me.
Not many people on this stream are going to think that.
Vinkman says, "Goodbye, Joe," which is from Werewolf, which is... Joe Estevez is in the movie, and they keep saying stuff like, because he like kind of gets told to leave the one of the scenes, and then he's just sort of like straggling around in the outer parts of the scenes, and so they keep making this joke like, well, I'm really not supposed to talk to people who aren't in the movie, like, Joe, you're not in the movie anymore.
Joe Estevez.
Joe Estevez, yes.
Yes, and he is...
Not Joel, Joe.
Yeah, Joe Estevez. He is
Joe Estevez, who is also in Soul Taker.
And he's also the brother of Martin Sheen.
Yeah, and they keep making a lot of jokes about that. Who would you cast in your werewolf movie? And then they have all these, like, brothers of famous people, which is great. Okay. A World Made of Cardboard says, you need the silhouette of the bots in front of you. Well, we've got the bots here, so...
this guy thinks in cardboard, so he's probably figuring out
you could make us a foldable, so that it folds down.
But I take umbrage with this.
Umbrage, you say?
Uh-oh.
Yes, because we've set this
Save
up...
your umbrage.
No, wait a minute.
Sorry.
We've set this up to look like the way it looks on the show when they're out of the movie theater.
Yeah.
So if you put this scene into like you would literally, it would be like a mirror within a mirror.
We would have had to play an old live stream.
Vinkman says, this isn't...
the back as a silhouette and let you do this live stream.
Yeah.
Vinkman says, this isn't paper, it's some kind of metal. No, sir, that's paper. That's from the movie, and that is a great riff. I'd like to thank me for flying me airlines.
That's what Elon Musk said last week.
Yeah, that is what he said. Good one, Aaron.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I showed up. Woo!
I think the one that I could watch over and over again out of this whole series, though, oddly, is not a Joel. It's one that Melinda showed me, and that's The Final Sacrifice, which is by far, for whatever reason, it's my favorite Mystery Science Theater episode. And I'm not as into, I don't dislike the interstitials, but what I'm there for is the movie and the riffing. I'm there for that. And so I'm not trying to place a judgment on that. What I'm saying is, as far as the movie content goes, Final Sacrifice to me is the kind of bad film that I really enjoy seeing people tear apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie too. Again, it's another Canadian. Last night we were watching Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, which was Canadian as well. There's something about those low budget Canadian movies from that time period that are just very special. Like, I really enjoy that level of, like, why is Tim laughing over there?
I don't know. It's very random.
I mean,
don't know why
you're...
he would be doing that.
Okay.
Anyway, that's why I asked that question earlier about the on satellite and then the bad guys back on Earth question, because I was always pretty tolerant of the interstitial bits.
Yeah.
Where they were standing around, just the three of them having a moment. But then when the added layer of them having to talk back to Earth and then that conflict started happening, I was like, can we get back to the movie, please? I want to get back to the movie.
Generally, I wanted them to get back to the movie, but there were some, like the Canada song and, like, Public Pearl TV, Pearl, 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 like... I really loved that when she sings that song.
Why are you playing with my friend over there?
She sings a song with Brain Guy where it's like, when loving lovers love and loving love. Like, it's just ridiculous. She nails that. So, and
I follow that one.
I follow Mary Jo on Facebook, and she still, like, posts really funny things. And I don't know. I just, I feel like this camaraderie with all of those guys. So
was her name Pearl related to her last name being close to the name Pearl? Mary Jo Pell?
I don't know.
I've always wondered if that was like a nickname she had. Because you notice that, like, Mike would always become, like, Joel and Mike would become some version of their name. I mean, I guess I'd have to ask them.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Vinkman says, that's not how you wear your Depends, Torgo. Torgo, with Torgo's theme from
There are
Manos.
a lot of people right now asking, or have been asking, about the bots.
Yes.
So are you going to describe, or somebody here going...
Does anybody else see that Michael looks like he has horns?
That's because of the Imperial troop transporters behind me.
That's pretty great.
He's a devil.
Yeah, so bad toy placement back there. Aaron, you were talking about the construction of the bots earlier.
Yeah, I was reading about all the different little things they made them out of, because clearly this is found stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That he built these first out of.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea behind Joel's character is that he got, trapped on that, or he launched himself in the original iteration, and then it turned
Because he
into
used
trapped.
those special parts to make his robot friends.
Right, and he went around the satellite of love and found stuff to make the robots, and he just happened to have a bunch of toys. So
and junk, yeah. These robots are actual replicas made by the guy who makes them for Joel, and they're made as puppets. They are made the same way that they're made for the different iterations of the show. And the only difference, and this is why there's this extra gumball machine here on the table, is that Tom Servo is supposed to have a horizontal seam in his head going around the globe area, the clear globe, and they've changed the design of that snack dispenser in years since. And so now it is a vertical seam, but we found the original and we plan to swap that out at some point to make him 100%.
Oh, there's a rich history of their heads being replaced throughout the whole series.
Yeah.
Raymond Huey says, Ma Mitchell.
My favorite riff, I don't know why, is when the title card comes up. and I think it's Tom Servo, and they're sitting there dancing to that late 60s music or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, it's in this really bad, way thin font that goes top to bottom, and you can't really read it. And he's like, mittens.
I like it when at the beginning of Final Sacrifice, it says a Flying Dutchman production. He goes, I don't give a Flying Dutchman about this production. Monty says, sorry I upset you with Porsche pronunciation, Mike.
Well, thank you for saying that, Monty. The thing is that the Germans, and I walked into a guy's office a few years ago who was a big Porsche enthusiast, and I said Porsche. And before I could even get another word out, he was like, it's Porsche. Porsche. And I'm like...
And it's Jaguar.
Yeah, and I said, okay. And then I went and checked, and the Germans do pronounce it Porsche. Mm-hmm. So then I pronounced it. I think there was a video I had done where I had accidentally said the word Porsche and said Porsche, and I got lit up for it again. And so on this video, I said, I'm going to pronounce it the way everyone's been lighting me up about it, both on and off camera for years. So I said Porsche, and I get lit up for that, you know.
What are you going to do?
There's no winning.
It's not like it's some sort
It's
of
one of
Soviet
those words.
stew.
Yeah.
That's a borscht joke.
But if you go and you
Nice.
listen, you can listen to Germans saying specifically, this is how you pronounce this name, and it's Porsche. It's two syllables. It's not one. It's not Porsche. Porsche.
I feel like there was a short video on the internet in the last 2 or 3 years where there was a person who reported at these races who said the name of every car. He was a genuine European person.
Right.
And he said the name correctly, and it was fascinating.
Yeah. Jaguar.
To my Americanized ear, to hear all of the things that I've just been wrongly
Right.
So here's the thing. It's like when I hear people getting mad, like in Australia, and they'll get mad when Americans say Melbourne instead of Melbourne. But the reason it said Melbourne is literally their version of the English language has different rules of grammar than ours does, like because it's just different enough that their pronunciation, that's why they pronounce things. So the R's get dropped if it's after a certain, I think it's after OU or something like that. It's just, I don't remember the rule, but there is a rule even if you don't realize it, and that's why British and Australian people say things slightly differently than Americans. But guess what? I'm American. So you guys may be saying it right, but like, I'm American. So me sitting there like as I go to a Mexican restaurant, I'm not going to sit there and order a burrito because that's obnoxious. So my point is, I'm American. I'm super white. Like, I'm not going to sit there and try to like pronounce Indian food or like all these other kinds of food in the correct way. I just, because there's a point where you become obnoxious and sort of, what's the word? Like pretentious about it. And it's like,
whoa,
you know what I'm trying to say.
You got woke.
I mean, you know what I'm trying to say.
I can understand what you're putting down.
I mean, I don't know. Prime Syndicate says, except that Melbourne was named after Lord Melbourne, who pronounced it Melbourne, not Melbourne. Melbourne, or Melbourne is really the way they say it.
Good on you,
Melbourne.
Australia, for changing the pronunciation.
Well, get this. Kylie Minogue was on Craig Kilborn's show a few years ago.
And she said Melbourne.
And she said Melbourne. She said it first, and then he responded back, yeah, you're from Melbourne. And I'm going, but I was told in Melbourne that they pronounce it Melbourne. But she's from Melbourne and said Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And she's...
Maybe it's like a conjunction of the fact that she was born there, and it's Melbourne, so she's Melbourne.
Is it...
What do you think? Are you going to go with that?
Is it Puma Man or Puma Man? Or is it the Pumaman? Which one is the correct way to say it?
The Pumaman.
The Pumaman, I think is correct.
Sounds like a mountain range in the Andes. The Pumaman.
Brian says, I've got a coworker who has AOL still, and every time he checks his email and you hear, you've got mail, I always add pattern baldness. I do too! I love Time Chasers, and like we watched it the other night.
Mail.
Michael's like, God, I hate this one, and I'm just like,
I do not
accept this as our hero.
Okay,
I do not
that's line that when I heard it, I fell on the floor laughing.
I
Which
don't
one?
not
The
expect
male
it to
pattern
be
baldness or the
and that's the timing you were talking about. There's
Yes.
the perfect amount of time between "you've got male" and then he
pattern
says
baldness?
pattern baldness.
And they wouldn't give themselves that kind of timing on the new version.
No,
No.
it would be immediately the next joke.
See, I don't hate the riffs in that. People think when you hear me say like I don't
you
like
have
that
to
one.
watch it 15 times to hear all of them.
Yeah, I hate when it comes to Time Chasers. That movie is just so nauseating to me that I have a hard time. The riffs are the only thing that get me through it. That's.
Is it better or worse than Manos?
Oh, I would much rather restudy the Misty of Manos than Time Chasers.
The Misty of
Really?
Manos.
Yeah, I really would.
Man, I find Manos to be very difficult.
Would
I've
you
only
like to
gotten
come
all the
over
way.
and watch the Misty of Manos?
I swear to you, I've only gotten through Manos all the way one time. So Wicked Person says pretentious, moi.
For those of you who get nauseated when you watch Misty of Manos.
Vinkman says the pizza dominatrix, which is wow,
Oh my gosh.
not from one I don't know if I've ever seen this one. The Selling Wizard, The Dead Talk Back. Don't know that one.
That's a double
It's funny
feature.
because you years back, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Then
You-
don't.
Well, we have every episode of Mystery Science Theater. We won't describe how we got that, but we have every episode on a hard drive. And when you gave that to me, which was like the best present ever, I was just like blown away. I was like, oh my God, it's like everything. And this was before they started really releasing as many of the Shout Factories, because this was quite a few years
Back
back.
when
Yeah.
it was all Rhino or whatever.
It was, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a little like more difficult to get like some of the more obscure episodes, right? So
and even those have gone out of print. So some
Yeah,
of the
it's like
DVD
all Shout Factory.
because it's
Yeah.
got like it's all of the stuff, the appearances, like the Turkey Day stuff, like all of that.
like all the
and
little
so-
extra stuff they made for Turkey Days.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
that is pretty cool.
it's great.
Great
So
archive.
I just have to sit there and go through that, and if there was a way to easily hook it up to the TV, and maybe now that I think there's a way to HDMI it in
Yeah.
and just watch them straight off the drive on the TV. Yeah, I feel like I need to go back, and there's probably episodes I haven't seen, which is pretty great.
It'll be like when I discovered the new Battlestar Galactica. We won't see you for like a month. You'll just like,
Well,
one
I
more.
will say,
I'll just
like-
watch one more of these.
I'm like your mom in the sense that I've got
No, you're not.
I've got a Roku, because like it's the easiest way for me to get my TV to like have all the streaming services in an easy place. And
Are
so
we talking about Rokus now, like their boomer technology?
kind of, I feel like people
God.
have like boomer shamed me
Because of the
I said I had a
Roku.
Roku. Like, oh my God, what are you, like 68? And I'm like, I guess I don't know, but anyway, I have
What's
one.
what's wrong with the Roku?
I don't know. It's like I just use my
Michael, I just
my
use
PlayStation.
phone. You know, you can just stream
I
from
use
your
my
phone.
cool like gaming device as my. It's like, well, good for you.
Every single person that I've ever met, which is 9 out of 10 people, they use their
1 out of 10
PlayStation
people
3 or
he hasn't
4.
met.
Like everybody's like, well, I don't have a Blu-ray player. I use my PlayStation 3, and I'm like, yeah, one of the first Blu-ray players. You guys don't even have a 4K player, I'm sure. So in certain ways, you think you're ahead of us. In other ways, I'm way ahead of you. So we all meet in the middle and realize that my Roku is your PlayStation whatever, and you're still using a freaking video game controller as your remote, which is Bush League. If you want to live in college on a beanbag chair forever, go ahead. I'm going to move on.
I love you. I love you. Wait, where was that? That was a funny comment. Where is it? Somebody says no. It's pronounced Roku.
Roku.
It's not Roku. It's Roku.
It's Roku.
That's hilarious. I don't know what's wrong with Roku. I just know
think
that
it's
like one time I said it and
Roku.
somebody was just like, whatever. My point is there's this app that you can get through whatever thing you use to access that stuff, and it's Pluto TV, and I just discovered it like a few weeks ago, month ago, whatever. And I'm sure everybody else is like, oh my God, you're late to the game. But like, I posted it thinking that I was going to get again boomer shamed. Like, what are you, a boomer? But I love it because it's the perfect hybrid between having so what it is, it'll have like all 4 billion different channels. It'll have like a channel that's just Star Trek, which really is Next Generation, and then it'll have a whole channel that's Mystery Science Theater, which it does, and it has a whole channel that's This Old House, which is like my favorite thing. It also has
Wait,
like
with Bob Vila?
no, like the newer ones.
Oh.
Anyway, my point is, like, they've got all these different
I bet you
channels.
like
And so,
Mike.
but with something that's like got 4 billion episodes, like Mystery Science Theater, it's sometimes you get into analysis paralysis with trying to figure out which one you want to watch, because you tend to want to pick ones you've already seen, and so you don't end up watching ones you've never seen. And so what's great about it, like back in the day when we were all kids, you turn on the TV and you just had to watch whatever was on. Well, I know that I'm going to be watching a Mystery Science Theater on that channel, but I don't know which one it's going to be.
So what you're
and
saying
it's
is
kind
you're
of
tired
nice.
of being able to select the exact program you'd like to watch, and you kind of miss the days when things were just distributed in the order that they come to you.
Yeah, or just that it takes that onus of picking. It's like when you go to the store and you
how
have
the
to pick.
turns have tabled.
When you like have to pick a ketchup and there's like 400 ketchups and you're like, I don't know which one's the best, and then you just stand there staring at ketchup for
Wanna know the trick?
40 minutes and like want to die.
Want to know the trick? Just get the red one.
Well,
Don't get those weird green ones.
no, I know, but just
Oh my gosh, I just got boomer shaved for my ketchup choices.
it's random, like someone says. Jason Anderson says Pluto TV gives you the randomness you crave, and it's true. Like, I don't want to have to decide which episode of Star Trek I want to watch. I like being able to tune in and go, ooh, it's this one.
You're
Whereas if
literally
I saw
killing
that
yourself.
on the back of the thing, I would pass over it. But then as I start watching, I'm like, man, this is a good episode. I forgot how good this episode is, or whatever.
Yeah.
It works
So-
well for Discovery, because we tend to get
Uh-huh.
stuck in ruts. Because I was talking earlier about how, like, I have the same issue with some of the music services that are out there right now, like Spotify, which is fine, but you tend to only listen to the songs that you've chosen.
Yes.
So how do you ever hear something that may be sort of off the
Well,
track
that's
of
why
what
Pandora was so nice for a long time, is because it would kind of get like,
you
here's
could
the
start with one
stuff you
song,
like.
and then it would build
Let
from
me show
that.
you all these other similar types things you might like. And it's like, I like, someone says sometimes media is best when curated by a host, and that's really true. I feel like if someone is kind of there saying, like, either show Next Gen in all of, like, the order that it was released, or, Mystery Science Theater, where they, like, will go from a Joel episode really, really early to a really, really late Mike episode, and you just never know what's going to come up next. It's just really kind of nice. Vinkman, ladies and gentlemen, flat butt hobgoblins. My favorite quote from Hobgoblins is, where it's like they're dancing, they're all dancing. It's like a really cheesy, like, horror movie, kind of like Ghoulies or something like that. And they're all like, God, it's not gonna come to my head. It's something about vote, dude. It's the 80s. Do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan.
There's that line from Space Mutiny where they're dancing in the space cantina, where he's like, "Oh, I always hate it when the counselors or the chaperones dance with the students." I was just like,
My favorite riff from that sequence is
Oh, is
where
it-
she's trying to get his attention and she's doing the hula hoop thing, and Tom Servo's like, she's presenting like a mandrill.
My
I was
favorite.
reading the wiki article when he said that. I was wondering what he was looking at.
Yeah.
There was like a scene from that where the lady dies, like the lady with the crazy dark hair. She dies, and then in the very next scene, she's sitting there typing as they walk by, and they go, "It's really nice of you to give that dead woman another chance."
Or how they kept trying to get them to sign the birthday card for Cheryl. Hey, can you sign Cheryl's
yeah.
birthday card?
It's just this party that just never ends, and they have like the worst like failed perm in this girl's hair. It's just like, oh, that
When she
hair.
first shows up, they're like, "Hi, I'm crazy."
Scuba and George, thank you so much for the congrats on 75,000 subs. We are grateful to finally crested that hill, and we're hopefully headed towards 80,000 soon. So we're going to keep plugging away.
Hefty Steel Sack says, "I just pronounce Porsche as car I'll never afford." I like that.
Yeah, when you slow it down, that's actually the same thing.
True. If you play it backwards, like backmasking.
Yep.
Kieran says, MST is not my cup of tea, but I'm here to support Tim and the Bionic 6.
Yes.
The Matt
Nice.
Wolf says, I tune in every Saturday for Melinda's ex-boyfriend stories. Well, I'm glad to oblige you there. I have lots of them. Not a lot of ex-boyfriends, but lots of stories. Wildstar Studios says, Twitch also has a 24/7 Misty channel, plus it has a chat option so everyone watching can riff along. Oh, that's pretty cool.
You know, I saw that. I went to their website today just to double check on any
Yeah.
updated news, and it said now streaming on Twitch. And I went, what is that? And then I moved on.
Boomer.
Yeah, I know. It's not on Roku. I mean, I know it is.
Dave Perry says, wasn't there a screensaver where you could adjust the size of Torgo's knees, or is that yet another bad nightmare of mine? I don't know.
There was a screensaver for everything. There's
I
no
feel
way
like there were a
wasn't.
lot of, like, there was a Torgo screensaver for sure. I don't know about adjusting his knees. But I'm pretty sure that there was one, and it had, like, the Torgo's theme song as he was, like, walking.
I like the one where the dude was stranded on the island, and something different would happen some days. Like a boat would show up. I don't know if some of you have to remember this screensaver.
Oh, the screensaver. I was like,
just
I thought...
guy. Yeah, I like the Misty about the guy stranded on an island.
I was like, there's a lot of them, actually. Vinkman says, hey, don't scratch the quarter flash. Hobgoblins. Yeah, that's true. That's that scene. That's where they're playing the records. That's a good one, too. I really like Hobgoblins.
I remember
That's
that.
the other one that I've seen. I'm pretty sure I saw Hobgoblins, like, outside of...
Did you just go to like a rental store with a sock full of quarters and just rent all their cheapest stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but she used
I literally,
dimes.
I watched every movie in their horror movie section. Like, I ended up renting every single one, and there were some bad movies in there.
I remember being traumatized.
Horrors of Spider Island, Jason. That's exactly what I was thinking. We just recently watched that. With the girls, like, wandering along, murmuring. It's so obnoxious. The Gunslinger is one that... My favorite part of that, the camera pans over, and there's, like, these people who are waiting on the far side of a building for them to roll camera and be told action, and you can see them waiting for them to yell action. And then they just suddenly start walking as though they had been just walking around the building, but they're all just, like, kind of standing there waiting for their cue, and they're on camera, so it's...
I just saw a clip the other. Speaking of the core, that joke, that a terrible joke.
I don't even Oh, see, I was envisioning, like, the core, like
Okay, so
think you were supposed to
we're
also
working
put
on
it
it.
back
We're
in.
working on it. We're working on
I
it.
swear to God, we've got gremlins.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay.
You want to grab another cable too?
Yep, working on it.
All right, cool. So
Now, I want to talk, while we're getting Melinda's mic fixed, I can tell another Misty story. I remember we were sitting around one afternoon and we were going through that library and she said, well, we can watch this one called Side Hackers. And I said, is that like a movie about computer programmers? I couldn't have been more wrong. It's this weird late 60s movie about this fringe motorcycle sport that I don't even think is around anymore, where you basically have like a frame that looks like a playground bit of equipment built onto a sidecar, and you have a motorcycle race, and the dude on the sidecar literally hangs off this jungle gym piece of equipment on turns. Do they still do this? I mean, is this still a thing?
it's probably
I
not
don't know which one
sanctioned.
it is. Tim, is this it?
This is, yes, that's it.
That's the wrong one. Hang on.
What's going on?
I'm getting you a new cable.
I know, but
That's the old one, dear.
okay.
You need to grab
Got it.
oh, there we go.
Okay, keep talking.
So anyway, I was just shocked watching this movie because I'm like, I mean, the movie itself was bad enough, but it was this relic of this weird motorsport. And I'm going, people used to just do this, like 50 miles an hour off-road motorcycle racing, hanging off the side of a sidecar.
They would basically use their body to, like, lean out to leverage the bike to not
So
turn
that- it was
over,
what
like
kept them from falling.
yeah,
Yeah.
they would basically take their bodies
So they
and
were
lean them.
side hacking.
Correct.
This sounds like a terrible idea for a movie.
Yeah.
It
How did
was
it
really
go?
bad.
It was real bad.
I mean,
I haven't
it
seen
was
this
like
one.
it was like the late 60s version of Rad. I mean, it was just like,
Ew.
except Rad was better.
It
Like,
was radical.
Let's see.
So where I
Somebody
was going with that was there's this epic scene where they're all sitting inside the cabin of the drill that's supposed to get to the core of the earth, and the camera cuts over and everybody's supposed to shake like everything just crashed, and Aaron Eckhart's character just sits completely still through it. And it's in the final cut. You can see him realize he missed his cue.
That's great.
And like go,
and they were just like, it's fine.
and they just left it in. Like, why do we want
Whatever.
to fix that? Anyway, Sorry.
How's the sound? Is the sound better?
Yep.
Okay.
Vinkman says this looks like a job for Weenie Man. Into the Weenie Mobile. Weenie Man away! Like, that's from the movie, too. Scott says, I read that Side Hackers took the writers by surprise with a really disturbing, violent scene. It changed how they selected movies going forward.
That must have been the one.
Oh.
There was, yes, there was an instance where they had selected a movie, and they were in the midst of the writing process, and then a really traumatizing scene was filmed in the movie. One of the characters dies in a violent and offensive way. And they
Well, I think it's during the races. Like, there's like, that guy totally died. Like,
Oh my God.
I don't
and
know.
so they
Maybe.
had to redouble down on making sure that Joel or Mike or somebody actually sat down and watched the movie all the way through to prevent that from happening again before they
oh,
committed
Eric
to it.
points out, yeah. So we just watched Side Hackers the other day, and someone says the brutal sexual abuse scene in that movie that got cut out of Mystery Science Theater.
Yes.
It did
That's
get,
what I was
it
talking
got
about
cut
without
out.
saying those words.
Okay, well, see, then I didn't know what you were talking about if you don't say it. But I will say this, that what's left in the episode is still really upsetting.
So it was worse than that.
It was worse than that. So, like, he's in the... You can tell it's about to happen. Like, this woman and this guy, and they're alone, and he's the crazy bad guy in the movie. And he's, like, saying something like, oh, really? Tell me... She's like, I should have left you, or I should have whatever. And he was like, really? Why do you say that? And I'm like, run! Like, I'm just like, I'm picking
Like
up
red
on all the
flags are
signs.
just-
I'm seeing the red flags. And she's, like, not seeing it. And so I'm not... But he, like, strangles her to death. And that's in the cut. So whatever else happened...
Yeah, so they apparently, from what I read, they actually just cut right through it and then addressed in between, in the interstitials, what had happened to that character to a degree, and then had to...
I'm supposed to tell you that you need to get more close to the mic because you're...
Well, I am now much closer to the mic.
Okay, good.
But, you know, if you want me to eat a mic, it's a little bit of a tall order there, buddy.
Future War is a good... Yes, Future War... The thing about... Here's a thing that I noticed. We were watching Future War like 4 days ago, and then last night we watched Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, and both of those movies have the female lead voiceovering most of the movie and speaking about things that are within the mythology of the movie that are very weird, as though we already know them. So it'll be like in Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, the woman's saying, you know, Aram Fingal was this compu whatever, and he was a programmer or whatever, but they have dumb words for everything.
So
And
it's just
and
this terrible exposition.
and he had never doppled before, but you know, he really should have thought about that before he doppled for his first time. And you're going, what are you talking about?
What's a doppel?
Exactly. Well, that's the whole plot of the movie. Is
Is
they
that like
basically
Bob Doppelinger?
they take your personality that lives in this cube
Like a doppelganger.
and they put it into an animal, and you get to go on vacation and like feel like you're an animal for like a weekend or whatever. It's bizarre.
All right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a fish.
But the same thing is true of the nun who used to be a hooker in Future War. It's just really bizarre. And there's the Jean-Claude Van Damme ripoff guy who's like the lead, and the bad like Tyrannosaurus Rex puppets.
Tim, can I get a sound check on my mic? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thunder.
Not in the room, but on the headphones.
Yes, I'm on the headphones.
Why are you on the headphones?
He's trying to figure out what's going on.
Gotcha.
Thunder Robot says, "Hey, what's going on behind here?" He stands up and grabs the letterbox and looks behind the bar. I don't get that. Is that a reference to Misty, or is that a reference to this?
Probably a little both.
Good. The nun as a hooker. That sounds like Sister Mary from Operation Mindcrime. Yeah, you know, I thought the same thing. But she's... And I feel like they're trying to make her like that. Like, she's this tough girl who had been, like, on the streets, and she had a pimp, and she had all this stuff. And she's kind of like this person that you can see as, like, the person you would want as, like, your AA sponsor. Because she has that kind of relationship with, like, people that she's talking to. But And she's kind of a cool character.
It's like she knows her stuff because she's been there before, and you're going to take her advice.
Right. I like her. I kind of want to know more about her. But then when you ram it into, like, the mythology of this dumb movie with the Jean-Claude Van Damme wannabe doing, like, martial arts against, like, Robert Zadar and, like, these big, like, dinosaur puppets, it's just bizarre. Vinkman says, Sister Mary Pusher. Exactly. So, yeah.
Here we go. I remember everything. There's your Minecraft joke.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Micah says, did you see them on tour this last year? No, I did not. I have seen them numerous times, and here's where I'm going to tell this fun story from... Michael was with me when this happened, so at Dragon Con. So he already knows what I'm going to complain about. So a few years back, I think it was Bill Corbett and Kevin Murphy and I can't remember the third person, but there were three of the guys. Oh, it was Frank. That's right. So they were all there, and they were going to be doing a panel at Dragon Con, and I was so excited. It was like the only thing I really cared about watching at Dragon Con that year. And so I got to the panel room like 3.5 hours before the panel, which you're not allowed to get in line until at least an hour before. But I still got there early. I had brought my lunch. I sat there. The room is here. I'm across the hall watching the door like a hawk, like for 3.5 hours. I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I see some people sort of hanging around. They have the puppets, which I didn't have the puppets at that time. And, you know, they're hanging out. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Again, didn't see anything, whatever. Well, the wall ends, and then there's a corner to go out, like, outside.
What hotel was this?
This was in the Marriott.
Gotcha.
And so I'm sitting there, and it was like maybe 45 minutes to the panel, which I would have thought there would have been a longer line, and I'm kind of confused because I don't see anybody, and I'm like, nope, I wasn't in the wrong place. So I get up, and I sort of, like, go over... And then suddenly I see, as I stand up...
Oh, this has happened to me before.
...that they have formed a line.
And it's already...
And it's around... Like, it just started around the corner where I literally couldn't see it. Because I'm staring at the door to the room, and the line starts around the corner from the place. And the guy who was, like, the Dragon Con personnel person is, like, watching the line. And he has seen me sitting there since he got there. And they've subsequently, I've watched them pull the guys that had the puppets from the back of wherever and let them come up to the very front of the line so that they could sit in the front row because they wanted the guys to see the puppets. And I'm sitting there going, I've been here for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So I walked up to the guy and I'm like, hey, is this the line for this? He's like, yeah, you'll have to get in line outside. Because by this point, it's like going out the door, wrapping around the building. And I'm like, but I've been here for 3 hours. And he's like, sorry, don't know what to tell you. And I'm like,
he doesn't want to fight the crowd.
I was like, you've seen me sitting there, everybody in the front of this line. And all the people in the front of the line were like, yeah, she's been sitting there this whole time waiting. They could all tell I was waiting. Dragon Con person's like, basically, screw you. And I had to I had to sit in the very back row. And as a short person, I literally couldn't see anything. I was so pissed. I never went to another panel again after that. I never even tried to go to another panel with celebrities in it. It's just the worst. Something that I won't miss about Dragon Con.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm bitter.
Now you're a celebrity.
I'm not a celebrity. Thunder Robot says he did that in an MST3K episode. I'm not sure he's talking about this note from earlier that I didn't get.
They're going around
there's
behind the
a lot
mailbox.
of reference culture in Mystery Science Theater, so...
And it goes in a loop. Like, there's references to references. And as you get to the end of an episode, it's like they've been, like, laying the seeds down for the jokes they're going to tell at the end. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I guess what I would say is, like, if I ever saw anybody, like... Back when we were doing panels at Dragon Con, when Dragon Con was still able to have people there, if I had ever seen that happen to somebody, I would have brought them up to the front row.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's just the worst feeling.
There's always a massive lack of common sense amongst convention organizers and their volunteers.
That's happened to me before, too, except I didn't even try to get into the thing. I just said, you know what, forget it.
Yeah.
I've waited for a long time and then realized that the line was all the way out on the road.
Yeah.
I talked you into what?
So you talked me into, you walked up and you were like, no, you need to go ahead and try to go, and it was like you and Joe. And
well, yeah, I mean,
you've invested the time, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. What William says, what was the first Rhino release you ever bought? I don't remember, but I bought a ton of.
I think the first Rhino release we went out and found was the one with Space Mutiny because it was already out of print. And I tried to make sure that you had a disc copy of that because you only had that on VHS, taped off of TV. And so we bought that at a secondhand price, but we got it minty. The only thing it doesn't have is its slipcase. And then you bought that one secondhand, which was the one that has
Boggy Creek, Merlin
Time
Shop.
Chasers on it because you love Time Chasers so much.
And I also love Boggy Creek. And I actually like every one of those. The Touch of Satan, Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonder. I like all of that. Jody says, just cuz, and he gives us a super chat.
Thanks, Jody. I went to the post office today. I went to the P.O. box, so we have boxes to open at the end. So
We do.
Don't worry, I picked those up, Jody.
Okay, so Bjorn says, is there a good starting point to watching, or can I just start anywhere? I think really you can just start anywhere.
Yeah, it's not a series with continuity in any sense. It's just
They
pick a
tried in the sci-fi years.
but that was because
impose
it
it.
was pushed on them.
Yeah, but it's not going to affect the majority of the episode. There, in those later episodes, there's some sort of a continuity, like with the storyline of Mary Jo Peel, like Pearl and Bobo, and like
But it
Bobo
doesn't
burning down
really
Rome.
matter.
It doesn't matter. Like it's just sort of like cornball humor that's there to whatever.
It's almost like they were just like, yeah, okay, we'll do some continuity. And
Right.
it just got it out.
Yeah. And also, you should know that the hardest ones to find on physical media and possibly streaming, I don't even know if they exist on streaming, are the early Joel ones that involve anything involving Godzilla. Those were pulled from circulation in the home video market because they didn't have rights in perpetuity for those. So the Rhino releases of those are very expensive. The only way you can really see those reliably is through torrents, and I'm not encouraging that, YouTube gods. So.
Although we totally got that. Fade to Black says, did you ever see the Mystery Science Theater versions of the Master Ninja TV
Yes.
series? We were literally watching them earlier on Pluto TV.
Yes.
So, yeah, with Demi Moore and, yeah,
I
crazy.
did see to me.
Richard Klein says, have you watched any of Riff Tracks, in particular The Room and Birdemic? Yes, I have. And
I think
do wanna check
Roadhouse
out
is your
their-
favorite.
my favorite is Roadhouse, but The Room,
Roadhouse.
I did enjoy what they did with The Room, so that's good. Let's see. Eric says, did Michael ever go to one of Melinda's parties? I don't think so, and I don't think that
we tried to have
we
a
were
Misty-
going to do one, but then something happened and we didn't.
Well, we tried to have a Misty party, and then that literal meth addict showed up to your Misty party and ruined it.
Oh, I heard that story.
Right.
That was a real person, though, so we'll keep that story in the coffee shop.
I don't even know her name, so it's not like I can,
It was somebody who was a friend of a friend, and she
a
ruined
friend
the
of
party.
it was one of those moments where you're like, it's so surreal to be around someone who's on like really on drugs.
Like
that you're
actually
just like,
in the throes of
like,
it. Yeah.
What's going on? Like,
Right.
it's a slow burn, right? Like, so it kept getting worse. It's like as the night went on. Let's see. Juan says, is there an episode of Misty that you find to be a slog to get through? For me, it's Manos and Angel's Revenge. I would agree on both of those. There are a lot of them that are just kind of, they've never really hit me the right way. I don't dislike them, but they don't have me rolling, like, laughing. Manos is really hard. I mean,
There are a lot of those 60s movies where it's just like people in offices and stuff. I can't even tell what the movies are about because they're so poorly shot and conceived.
yeah.
Some of those can be kind of hard to get through.
Monty says Hamlet is a terrible Misty. You know what? I kind of liked the Hamlet. It's a German-made version of Hamlet.
It's right here in this set.
It's here. But again, it's from that era that is sort of my sweet spot with this. So there are very few of those that I don't really know very well and enjoy. So that's just me. Master Painter says, who can picture Michael and Aaron as either kids show hosts, late night horror hosts, or Misty type hosts?
I think I could totally do, what Mike Nelson or somebody did as far as filling that slot. Now, I'm not claiming that I would be as funny as him in the riffs because I've never tried that on a professional level. But as far as being a host between two puppets, I could totally do that. Yeah.
As long as I get to be Tom Servo, I'm happy.
Stiff Kitten says, did you get the Kickstarter MST3K? Because I am in the UK and they messed up the region codes. I got 2 copies.
Oh.
Is that the new one? You talking about the Kickstarter that was for the new Misty? Or
it may be, but I know that the Kickstarters did get like special editions. So there was stuff from Joel's early days that is still really hard to find that got sent out.
Yeah, no,
to the
I wasn't in the Kickstarter, so yeah, I don't have that. So that's crazy. You got 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like unreleased stuff that they found the masters to it back at the old TV station and they dubbed them over.
Yeah, Eric, Turkish Star Wars was never Misty. Maybe one day somebody will riff tracks it or something like that. We did not build the robots, Matt and Brian. We got the robots through the guy that makes them for Joel.
Jason says, a lot of the time you can buy broadcast rights to big batches of old movies from clearinghouses. So we're going back like a couple hours. I'm going to skip down to the bottom.
No, but that makes sense. I bet there's like holding companies that will buy those and just see if they can sell them off. Almost like bad debt. They just get these rights.
Derek says, which cons have you attended lately that you prefer or advise? I assume you're down here in the South if you were going to Dragon Con. Dragon Con used to be really awesome. And I'm reluctant to talk badly about Dragon Con in general. There are still great things about it. But it's become very popular, and therefore that has a burden along with the positives, right? So it's very crowded, and it's just hard to get from point A to point B. Of course, right now there aren't any cons going on. I personally do, especially like now in my life, I kind of enjoy smaller conventions if I'm going to go. You've really just got to have something that I'm going to want to see. I think the best convention I've ever been to was up in Seattle, which was Emerald City Comic-Con. And what I love about that con is that they really vet their panelists and their panels. So when you go there and you watch any panel that's there, it's high quality. The people are very knowledgeable about what they're talking about, and it's not just people shooting from the hip. It's fully produced. It's planned, which not always is the case at Dragon Con. I feel like the structure of Dragon Con is a little bit more like
it's uneven. Like you'll have some
hit or
halls
miss,
that are
yeah.
You'll have very professional, very polished stuff happen in there. And then you'll walk around the corner and there's an actual panel going on, but nobody's watching it, and people are just sort of fixing their hair or repairing a costume or sitting in the back of the room taking a nap, right? And you just sort of get everything in between that.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of it is sort of people...
You have to find your con at the con, in a way.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep it at that. The other con that I really liked was Pensacon.
Oh, you did like Pensacon.
I have heard good things about Pensacon.
I liked Pensacon.
Is that in Pensacola?
Yep, it is. A World Made of Cardboard says, I still say Girl in the Golden Boots, worst movie ever. However, the guy teleporting in is the greatest moment in film editing history. Yeah, I just teleported here. It's impressive.
Well, it's probably because the print was really damaged and it was missing like a whole chunk of the scene, I would imagine.
And he's just suddenly in his space.
Yeah.
Is that where Tom announced that he could teleport occasionally? I know that Tom has made that claim.
I don't know.
Tom Servo.
Master Son says, I am going to RetroCon this year at Eminem's place.
Retro B-Con.
Retro B-Con. I don't know if that's supposed to be there. Raymond says, question for all, does anyone have a favorite Misty educational short? Mine is the one on traffic fatalities. That sounds like the one you were talking about.
That's the one I was thinking of, yeah. That's the one that I like the best.
I like I said, I like whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Coily the Spring Sprite, no springs. Like, I just love that.
What were you supposed to learn from that one?
How springs are important to so many of the things that we...
I don't know what I would do without that treasured knowledge.
And then there was also the one that was like the World of Tomorrow, where they were showing like the World Fair of whatever year it was. And anyway, Hired was pretty good. A Case of Spring Fever, that's what it's called. Let's see. Beta Ray Bob says, quit Dragon Con years ago because it got too big to be fun anymore. Smaller cons are the way to go. I kind of feel that way now. That's just a personal preference. You may like the craziness of the bigger cons. So Thunder Robot says, my favorite riff track is Night of the Living Dead, where they joke about the window that was never boarded up, which I never noticed before then. Wow, that's unfortunate. When you really do the research on the Night of the Living Dead movie, it's not surprising at all, because that movie was literally made on such a shoestring. It's really impressive that it got made at all.
Kind of like Phantasm.
That's a brutal comparison, man.
Thanks. I'm here to help.
Jason Anderson says, Netflix Mystery Science Theater requires multiple viewings or Adderall to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't keep up with the new one, and it's not because I'm crotchety and old. It's because they literally aren't letting their jokes breathe. They're literally stepping on their own jokes, and it's like, you guys have got to back off this machine gun, rapid fire rhythm you've got going.
Monty says, I was a Mystery Science Theater Info Club member number 1331 or so. That's pretty cool. I didn't join the fan club because, again, by the time I got into it, that was like, I feel like they didn't really advertise it anymore.
Right.
Like, they used to put it at the bottom of the screen. Like, you could write in, you could even send emails or letters. It wasn't emails, it was letters in, and they would read them on the air.
Yeah, they stopped that at some
Yeah,
point.
they stopped that. It was a Joel thing. But I thought that was a really cool thing that they did. Scott says, my favorite short is the wholesale bread salesman training video when Mike starts in as though the bread guy is in the mafia. It kills me every time.
Yep, I do remember that one. That one's good.
And then Anjan says, I love the riff track short, setting up a room with two teachers setting up a classroom. Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh, we'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. The hardest part to me about riff tracks is figuring out how I'm going to sync them up, like how I'm going to play.
I was going to ask that question. What's the best way that you've found?
The best way that I've found is to just like find the ones that have already got the sounds all in there, and I just buy them.
Otherwise, you have to figure out a way to rip the movie with our resources, then download the track.
With our technology?
With our technology, we can rebuild it. Yeah,
cue it up, and make sure that it's...
Yeah.
I was thinking that it's probably as simple as just using a pair of Bluetooth headphones and putting one of the earbuds in your ear and starting it on your phone.
You can start it on your phone and just have your phone here and watch it on your TV.
Well,
but
no, I don't want to do that. I just mean
supposedly
to hear it that
they have
way.
an app now that syncs everything up for you.
That's what I was wondering. If somebody got smart and they got a Raspberry Pi and an Arduino and they did a thing.
Yeah,
and they
you could probably do it. You should use your evil for
No,
good.
I want to go download it from GitHub. I want to find somebody who's already built it and just... I ain't got that much brain spare yet.
Yeah, you do.
No. Spin it all.
Monkey Boy says, I'm completely lost. Well, riff tracks, when you buy riff tracks, it's just them talking about the movie, and you have to play the movie.
So it's
and then
just an MP3.
And then you can match it up and then play the riff tracks, and then it's like they're riffing the movie. But, finding a way to marry up those two soundtracks is like a whole thing. And so, yeah, there is an app, and if I was going to watch it on my phone, that would be fine, but I'm not.
And it works with, like, streaming, I guess, to do it?
I don't know.
That
There's
was the
no way
thing.
to do it through a Roku, which, okay, boomer.
Well, I could have told you there's no way to handle it through a Roku. That's ancient technology.
How dare you insult my knowledge of ancient dentistry.
You and your Roku leave this house.
Stiff Kitten says, RetroBlasting the KS was to bring back Mystery Science Theater and raise enough money to... Kickstarter was to bring back Misty and raise enough money to make enough money for a new season. Yeah. So,
And I felt like one of the rewards was some of these lost... At least that's what I read. There was some of the lost content that they got for reaching certain tiers.
I am so jaded about... We talked about this last time you guys were over here, like... the new versions of old stuff. Like, can we come up with, like, any of them that are good? Are there any reboots, remakes, rehashes of anything that's from our childhoods that is actually good quality?
Well, you know what I've noticed is the difference here is that we tend to not like them. but other people do like the rehashes.
I'm not even just talking about things like the new Star Wars stuff, which is just a
That's an example of one that
continuation.
didn't work for us.
Well, that's a continuation, though. I'm talking about like Transformers movies. Like they sort of take the concept of it and then they make it into a movie. Or and honestly, I will say there's only one that I think is really good and truly could stand on its own and be really good, and that's Cobra Kai. I really feel like it's a strong series. I enjoy watching it. I would enjoy watching it if there was no Karate Kid movie to begin with. I feel like it just is well done. It's its own thing. But most of the time, you know, like when they remember when they redid Scooby-Doo as a movie, live action in the 90s?
Matthew Lillard is a treasure.
That's what I keep hearing.
I hear Freddie Prinze had his...
I'm not a fan of Scream. And isn't he like one of the guys in Scream?
Yes, he is an actor in a movie called Scream.
Like
but
it.
I think there's SLC Punk in 1,000 other places. You probably missed seeing him.
You didn't like Buffy as Daphne?
I didn't like Buffy as Daphne. No,
It was
I
not
didn't.
her strongest
Not-
performance.
Not really, no. I guess I'm just
about
saying
Freddie Prinze?
a lot of times
Junior.
they just kind of fall flat because their whole purpose is to get butts in the seats, and they don't care if they're any good because once they've gotten your money, they don't
Right.
care if you're entertained. And
Right.
so
I think the Scooby-Doo movie lost me when they used the Who Let the Dogs Out
oh my god.
song for the 487th time that summer.
Vinkman says, are there any episodes where you notice something odd about the movie, but the Misty guys didn't comment about it? I think there's an episode where they were using stock footage from Battlestar Galactica, but it's never mentioned. Yes. So to your point, Space Mutiny,
Yeah.
I've said that a million times. This beginning and middle and all the way through Space Mutiny, they're literally ripping off the old school Battlestar Galactica footage, like taking whole chunks of battle sequences and dropping it into the movie, and the guys never mention it. And I assume it's because they weren't really big enough nerds to have watched that, and so they just didn't realize that's what it was. I mean, they would make jokes like outlets in space, but they didn't like. So they were making fun of the effects, but they weren't pointing out that it was like
It just
Right.
didn't click when they were writing it that
Yeah.
that was just blatantly ripped off of Battlestar. What was
Yeah.
it, 80, I think?
yeah. And like earlier when we were watching,
Thanks, Camera Tim, for telling me that.
watching it, like for the millionth time I'm watching The Final Sacrifice, and there's this moment towards the beginning where Troy is sitting in the kitchen and he's eating the whole crazy bread. It really is crazy. And there's this thing behind him on the wall that looks like a weird clown smiley face, and they just like they don't even mention it. And it's like, what is that hanging on the wall in the kitchen? That's creepy as hell. So yeah, I don't know. There's only so many jokes you can do though, right?
Yeah, or else you'd have modern MST3K.
Exactly. All right, so
Venkman also says,
oh, sorry. Vinkman says, also in the wild, wild world of Batwoman, one of the Batwomen is wearing a revealing two-piece outfit and her pants keep changing from low-waisted to high-waisted in the same scene. It's like belly button, no belly button. That's pretty funny. I never noticed
You
that.
think
Now
they
I
would
want to
call
watch
it?
it.
I could just hear Tom Silva, belly button, no belly button, belly button, more belly, no belly button.
It's like in Werewolf where it's like, you know, is she wearing pants? Because this girl's skirt is so short that while she's sitting down, it looks like she's just not even wearing pants. And so then they just keep making jokes about pants.
In Space Mutiny, there's the scene where they go in and they're like, she's completely naked. Completely naked. And then it just moves on.
So are you going to, it's about,
You want to open
Yes.
some boxes?
we'll open some boxes.
All right, I'll grab a box for you.
I'll clear the table.
Be very careful.
Wildstar Studio says, give season 2 of Netflix Misty a try. They adjusted the pace of the riffs.
Okay, well, I'm glad they finally got that note.
Yeah, seriously.
They probably got it a lot.
Well, why would they make that mistake to begin with? It's not like you guys haven't done this before.
They probably were trying super hard. Focus Group did, and it did well.
George Aitken says, has Melinda watched the Billy Connolly's World Tour of Scotland? No, I have not.
No, but that sounds great.
It does sound like something I would like.
I like Billy Connolly.
Amazon Prime Riff Tracks is awesome. Yes, I do enjoy being able to watch those. That's very handy. Wicked Person says, you love this thing from your childhood? You'll be excited to hear that we've redone it and changed most of it. Now give us all your money. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and while they're doing it, they're literally banking on you watching it, but then they're saying that it's no longer for you.
Right. The moment you complain about it, they're like, well, this was made for the kids.
No, it's not. if you want to like intrigue the kids, then like make something for them.
But the ads are literally like, do you remember when you were 7 and you saw this movie this summer?
Ready Player One.
This is not something from our childhood. I mean, it used our childhood.
That's what I'm saying, though, is they are all essentially doing
Do
the
you
Ready Player One
remember
thing.
Tron?
Do you? Raymond Hoey says, book recommendation, A Year at the Movies by Kevin Murphy, where he chronicles watching a movie in a theater every day for a year. I have heard about that, and I was always really interested to hear how it is. So it's
like he went to like a Regal Cinema every day for a year.
Yeah.
How did he not die of popcorn-related illnesses?
you smuggle in your own candy.
You smuggle in
You have your own popcorn.
and those are all really fun stories not to tell on the live stream.
Hey, do you remember movie theaters before they ended?
Check it out.
Absolutely, it's only
the
been
companions.
6 months.
It's the new set. The new
Oh,
Doctor
wow.
Who companion set with the official classic Sarah Jane and Romanas.
I'm sorry, were we reminiscing
Oops,
about
sorry.
movie theaters too much for you, Michael French?
Maybe.
Maybe a little bit.
And interesting.
And another one.
And another one with 2 Sarah Janes and an extra Romana. So I guess I'll be doing some customizing. Awesome. I'm glad that showed up.
Matt Hall says, that woman's accent in Robot Holocaust is so perplexing and annoying. I'm simultaneously laughing while wanting to hammer railroad spikes in my ears.
That is not recommended.
That's great.
Did you read this one up here?
Yes.
Okay. Next box.
That was the thing you literally interrupted us talking about.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's hard. It's hard when you're doing a live stream because you know.
Thank you, sir.
Here you go.
This
Is a box.
it is.
It is green.
It's from Jody.
It is from eBay.
A bay.
eBay.
A bay.
What is ZZ Top Force?
ZZ Top Force. Sounds like an awesome little superhero group that sings, and they have like their superpower is beards.
Oh gosh. Michael, here is some more for your Jerry Anderson collection.
What?
Not to be confused with Harry Anderson, who was the star of Night Court.
Which is a fun
Bob
confusion.
Anderson. He's got to nip down and make that movie real good then, eh?
That's a great Minnesota.
It's from one of those Misties. They're-
Oh my. Now I feel stupid that I didn't pick up. Okay, holy cow.
You know it's good when he can't finish a sentence.
He
That's
has.
true. Action Force Z Force equals ZZ Force.
Nah.
He
So
sent
if
us-
it's ZZ Force, do you say ZZ Force?
He sent us carded
you do.
Space Precinct 2040 action figures.
Oh, that's
Cool.
Which means that now I feel bad that I didn't get that Space Precinct cop car that I found on eBay a few months ago.
Yes, Michael, but how would you have known?
I know.
No, you don't know. That's the whole. Tim Hayes says that actress in Robot Holocaust. I remember either Joel or one of the bots saying, "It sounds like you have a piece of hard candy in your mouth." I like to call that peanut butter mouth.
Peanut butter?
Is that how she talked? Why?
I'm gonna make you watch Robot Holocaust.
All right.
It's a short. So
I'd rather watch that than some of the other stuff you've threatened to make me watch for
This-
podcasts.
That's true.
Sorry.
I've got a long
I
list
feel like
of...
I'm like on the satellite, and you're somehow taking the role of the person doing human experimentation on me. Except I have no robot sidekicks.
Michael and I are watching this series that I don't think I'm supposed to say what it is right now.
Well, then don't.
But I'm not. But we're watching it,
I'm here to
and
help.
it's so bad that like Michael goes, I feel like this is going to be a dreamland before it's ever a
Then
retro
definitely
blasting, and I'm
don't.
like, ooh, that means that Aaron has to watch.
Then definitely spoil it now. Ruin it, because
Nope.
I'm terrified to find out
Nope.
what this
Oh
is.
no!
Oh,
Oh my God!
you knocked it all over.
Anyway, thank you, Jody. That's awesome. I'll make it a point now to get the rest of these vehicles and characters. All
Gory
right.
Gusto, I see you said I could live with a Babylon 5 reboot. I would love a resampled and redone
Just the special effects.
Especially, yeah, everything re-rendered. That would be just astonishing.
Thank you, sir. Oh, it's also from Jody.
That Jody.
No, Jody.
Well, that's a little old box.
Yeah, it's a small box here.
Is it a harmonica?
Oh, that would be.
I wish it was.
That would be very disappointing. Watch it be a harmonica, and now I feel like a jerk.
Oh, it's Bond. It's a James Bond Aston Martin. Da-da-da-da.
You mean Bentley? James Bond drove a Bentley
This is why we're gonna,
religiously. He loved his Bentley.
and his Beretta, his Bentley and his Beretta.
They had to take
my
both of them away from him.
This is why we...
It doesn't sound right.
It is absolutely correct.
Jody says
As it was written.
the police bike will be in the P.O. box later this week.
It's going to be really embarrassing because there's literally just going to be a real police bike just crammed into your mailbox.
Oh, jeez.
Michael just broke it.
You throwing knives places?
No,
It has an ejector seat.
it has the actual ejector seat with the passenger.
That is cool.
Don't
as
push that
crap.
button.
So I'll just put this there so you can see.
Okay, Jody, that's a cool find.
That is actually pretty cool.
That ejector seat's on a hair trigger.
Johnny Undaunted says, has there ever been another movie besides Parts the Clonus Horror that was remade after it was shown on Mystery Science Theater?
Michael, this one is going to be...
I don't know, but I can.
Okay, well I'll just open it. Right
I can
here
tell
at the
you
front.
that somebody found an
We just
original
put it
film
right here.
version of Manos: Hands of Fate, and they actually like cleaned it up and made it a really great.
Oh, they restored it?
They restored it, yeah.
The fans are doing the best work.
And sometimes they shouldn't.
Yeah, please stop enhancing.
Please stop bringing Manos back to us.
Can you get me a longer version of Manos, please?
Do you need to like pan down so people can see it?
Well, I was. But...
No.
But-
We're not doing that.
Okay.
Michael will lift it higher.
Okay.
Take me to higher love.
Thanks,
Take me to
Creed.
higher love. It's not
Creed.
Creed.
The band.
It's not Creed.
That's Steve Winwood.
That's Steve Winwood.
Bring me a higher
Yeah, thank you.
love.
She got the words right.
Do-do-do-do-do.
Hope
Bring
you're
me
able
a
to get some
higher
mileage
love.
out of this,
Whoa.
and now the other figures I've sent have a place to hang out from Sal.
Yay!
What?
I know what it is.
What could it be?
Very excited.
What do you predict it is, Melinda?
I know what it is.
There will be
Holy crap.
penalties if you are wrong. I know what it is too. I was hoping you didn't. and
It's
you'd
a
guess.
snake.
Oh, it's a snake.
Good lord.
What a nice.
You guys, I can't wait for you to see it.
Wow.
Can you...
See, it is a snake. I was right.
There's a snake involved.
I mean, honestly, at this point, who cares about the Origins line when there's something like that out to buy?
Mega
Is that
Constructs.
something that I can like put together?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Look how
Like him.
blocky it is.
You need to tell him I said thank you.
That's awesome.
This is awesome.
Yeah, Sal, we're blown away. This is awesome. You shouldn't have, but thank you, because I know that it comes from the right place, and I
Is there a wrong way to give someone a Mega Constructs Masters of the Universe?
I don't know, but I'm gonna make sure that I do a really, really good video about this and the other pieces that have come into the studio. So I will make it a priority to make a video about these.
One Epic Gamer says that you should do a review on this.
I am gonna do a review on it. That's what I just said.
It's going to be a bang-up
There's
review.
a delay in what we say versus what they...
Oh, right. Okay, well, I don't know what the delay is, so...
Michael's like, you failed at watching this live stream. How dare you not transcend space and time?
Yeah.
Beta Ray Bob says that it's going to take me a while to build it, but worth the time. I'm fine with it taking a while because honestly, like, I feel like that's why I always try to hoard everything and not let Michael, because Michael builds it really, really, really fast, and I'm like,
Like in the video games?
yeah, I just want to. You just want to
See,
like
fix it, feel it, heat,
savor
break it
it and like let it go slowly and just enjoy the process. And it's kind of zen. And Michael's like,
Duissimo.
I look over and he's already done his whole half of stuff, and I'm
Sorry.
like, man. So I steal them from him. Like, I don't let him do them.
Well, anyway, that's all she wrote for the boxes.
Well, that last box was a doozy.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Sal. This has been a lot of fun. We'll make sure to do a very, very good video about this and the other Masters of the Universe Mega Constructs pieces. We'll bring them all together and do a big feature, kind of like we did for Playmobil Ghostbusters. And somebody was asking up in the chat. They said, I can't find it. Scroll back up real quick. Somebody was asking,
How often do you receive items that you already own?
I very rarely have received items that I already own, thankfully, but also I wouldn't shirk them if I did already own them. People's generosity is shocking because we don't solicit for donations at all. We don't make videos asking people to send us stuff. You guys are just a very generous community, and I can't thank you enough.
Jason Anderson says, everybody join Patreon to see RetroBlasting's Ninja. Yeah, so, again, obviously it's totally optional, but one of the things is that we feel very strongly that if you're going to donate to our Patreon, that we want to give you your money's worth. And so we really try to put, lots of stuff on there that, you won't get anywhere else. And like in that case, there was a video that Michael made that's only available to the patrons. So, anyway, if you're interested at all...
Speaking of which, are we going to hang out after the stream today and do a little Patreon?
Yes, we are.
Unplugged?
Yes, we're going to be doing an after show. That's another thing that we do for patrons is we do an after show for about an hour where we just talk about the subjects du jour.
Are we going to perform The Man Who Sold the World on acoustic guitars this time?
I wasn't aware of that. There goes our monetization.
Yeah, I didn't perform it that well enough to fool the AI there.
Don't quit your day job.
I won't. But if I did, it would be Dos
passed
Equis.
upon the stair. Anyway,
Well,
I'm going to keep singing it because Michael will yell at me.
Jody's asking me if Ninja will get a sequel. There will be other, obviously, Patreon exclusive videos where I have ideas that wouldn't get past the YouTube filters. So I do a lot of those videos. I have another one coming up that I haven't even told the patrons about yet. But I have another video that's only going to be on Patreon because of the YouTube.
We should do my
screening.
summer road trip idea that I had with Broken Vader. And him and I go find our feelings out in the world. And share ice cream overlooking the fjords.
It's like a retro-blasting Fear and Loathing.
Yeah. It was 40 miles out of, Bakersfield. the bats came right out of the sky.
Oh, man.
All right, well.
Yeah, well, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a great Saturday. Oh, just so you know, Analog Toys is going to be having a live stream today. I think it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you want the party to keep going, you can jump over to the Analog Toys channel. Tony's always does great live streams. Sal, contributing to the toy fund, you literally just gave us Grayskull.
So now you can buy a more toy.
And also, just so you're aware, Sal runs the excellent YouTube channel 2 Cents Toys that does the best modern toy reviews I've seen online. So check him out as well. But yeah, if you want to see more content today, you can. If you're on Patreon, we'll be doing an after show, and then Analog is doing his big live stream that he does every weekend at 6:30 today, I think.
How do they find you on Patreon?
You go to Patreon and you type in RetroBlasting to find us on Patreon.
Yeah, we have a nice integrated name that you can find us on all platforms under that name. It's not like I'm Harry Wolf 27 on Patreon or anything like that.
Don't mistake
Some
Michael's
dude-
sarcasm as contempt. He
Some
genuinely
dude
just
is
wants you
actually
to find
called
it.
Harry Wolf 27 on, and he's like, "Thanks for the shout out, bro."
Yeah.
I gotta tell you guys, these jumpsuits, while they're very warm, pretty comfortable. I highly recommend.
I wish we would all just move to that being our professional uniform for the real
I wish
world.
we would
Just
too. Like it's got a nice
jumpsuits.
built-in waistline, and it's very nice.
We
So
need
you
to all
wanted-
get matching jumpsuits for retroblasting,
Yeah.
and then whenever we go places, we can just sort of like.
I feel like we should.
Tim was just pointing out we'd all look like Star Trek Next Generation era characters.
That works for me. I kind of like the ones off of Enterprise. The uniforms from that were pretty cool.
I'm just gonna wear this.
Okay.
You guys
Under the other one, under the correct uniform, right?
No. Too
Like
much
an everlasting
polyester.
gobstopper, you would just be different colored jumpers.
Yes.
All right, guys, well, we're going to get set up for the after show. But
Jason,
thanks for...
real quick, Jason says, "What happens if I type RetroBlasting into my Roku?" I don't know, but do it and find out. I want to know.
You've still got a working Roku? Wow.
Wow, boomer.
Wow. All right, well,
All right, we're gonna
one more thing. I'm just kidding.
We're going to go do the after show. You guys have a great rest of your weekend, and you know how to get in touch with us.
But not you. You know. who
The
you
topic
are.
for next week will be announced later this coming week. We haven't decided yet
for the next live
for the
stream.
next live stream. Someone asked, so
All right, guys. See you later.
bye.